Shalom everyone, this is Chris Shoemaker, also known as Yehuda ben Shomer, and you're watching the Ponderings of the Perkei Avot. Today we are in chapter 3, verse 17. Now, at the beginning of this video, you saw this little comic that I had of Yeshua pushing Peter, Kepha, out of the fishing boat and into the water. I can't help but think that Yeshua had a sense of humor. If he had a deep sense of what sorrow and grief is by crying when his friend Lazarus passed away, I'm sure there were times where he would just joke around and would be laughing. What's the greatest way to attract a child? It's to smile, and it's to laugh, and it's to joke around with them. And we see in the scriptures that Yeshua said that the children would come to him and that he would bless them. And I believe it was the traditional Jewish blessing of, may God make you like Sarah, Rivka, Raquel, and Leah, the traditional blessing for girls, and may God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh, the traditional blessing that you were to bestow upon boys. And the disciples were just all disconcerted when these kids just started flocking around Yeshua, and the disciples tried to push them away, and he says, "Don't hinder the children, for such is the kingdom of God." So to me, I really believe that Yeshua had a joyful, jubilant, full-bodied sense of humor. If we are created in the image of God and we have a sense of humor, then for sure Yeshua had a sense of humor. Now, Rabbi Akiva tackles this subject of a sense of humor in Perkei Avot 3:17, where it says, Rabbi Akiva would say, "Jesting and frivolity accustom a person to promiscuity." So that's a warning. He's not saying that we have to be deadpan and serious all the time, but that we need to just be careful and guard the way we joke, that our jesting and our joking and our fooling around and our practical jokes should be clean and should have an air of humility and holiness to them, if that makes any sense. Because, for instance, when guys are joking around in the locker room, guys come in from playing a sport and, they're all hot and sweaty and everybody's getting a shower and changing clothes, and somebody snaps a towel and, or kind of rustles around and jokes around, and then everybody starts telling jokes. Well, it doesn't take too long for these good, clean jokes to venture into potty humor and sexual humor. And when one's joking, we want to use joking as an excuse for sin. Say, oh, well, it's not a big deal. I didn't really mean it seriously. I was just joking around. It's just for fun. We can't say that when we're joking about things that are sinful and joking about things that are of a private nature or a promiscuity type of nature. We need to keep our jokes clean and holy and just good, clean fun. So it says, jesting and frivolity accustom a person to promiscuity. When we joke around too much and we're too comfortable with joking, it's too easy for us to cross the line into something that is wrong or sinful, or something that something that's taboo and shouldn't even be touched. And we need to be careful of that, because when we joke, we let down our guard and allow these things to come in and just make the claim, oh, it's no big deal, it was only a joke. Well, even the Proverbs talk about, digging at somebody or getting a barb in at somebody. It's like a guy shooting fiery arrows at random and said, oh, I was just joking. When we joke about other people or have a laugh at somebody else's expense, in Judaism, it's considered lashon hara. It's considered the evil tongue. Any gossip, slander, or anything that causes shame or embarrassment to another human being is equal unto murder, because it's shedding blood, because people either flush with anger or they flush with embarrassment. Either way, blood is rushing to the surface of the skin, and it's considered shedding blood, so it's equivalent to murder. Even though you don't murder them spiritually or physically, you're murdering their character. You're murdering them spiritually. You're breaking their will. You're murdering their self-esteem and their self-worth. And so we need to be really careful that our jokes doesn't go into attacking or harming others, or embarrass them in some sort of way. Jesting and frivolity accustom a person to promiscuity. It reminds me of what Rav Shaul said in Ephesians 5:4. He's talking about these things shouldn't even be coming out of your mouth. He says, neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. So even Rav Shaul to the Ephesians, the Apostle Paul, was basically warning about coarse joking, or this kind of jesting and frivolity that could lead to promiscuity. So as I said before, I do believe that Yeshua had a sense of humor, and I can just only imagine that probably, even though it's not recorded in Scripture, I can almost bet that Yeshua probably did push Peter or one of the disciples out of the fishing boat and into the water just for the heck of it, just for a good laugh. I do believe he had a sense of humor. So out of all of the paintings and images of Messiah that have been painted and created over the years, my favorite is the one called the Laughing Jesus, or the one where he's sitting with children and laughing, his head's just cocked back in laughter, because it really shows that Yeshua was in touch with his humanity, and he was down to earth, and he related on the level of a human being, even though that he was God in the flesh, basically. So the other parts of this says that tradition is a safety fence for Torah. Now, in Judaism, it's traditional to put fences around the Torah. So there's a solid command at the center. There's a fence around it so we won't get close to breaking that command. One instance of this is thou shalt not commit adultery. Basically, you're not to jump in bed with somebody that's not your spouse and cheat on your spouse or fool around. Okay, well, that's easy, right? That's easy to do. But Yeshua took it a step further when he was talking to the Pharisees. He says, even if you even look at a woman with lust, you've committed adultery in your heart. You may have not committed the act physically, but you've committed it spiritually and in your heart. So that could be considered a fence around the Torah, getting to the spiritual root of a commandment. And, another example of this very thing was Job. If you read the book of Job, he says, I've made a covenant with my eyes that I will not look improperly on another woman or on a young woman. So he made a fence around the Torah of committing adultery, that he wouldn't even look at a woman in such a way that would cause him to lust. So that could be considered a fence around the Torah. A fence around the Torah is just a custom or a tradition that helps us stay away from breaking that command. If there wasn't a fence around it, it'd be too easy sometimes to break particular commandments. But if you build a fence around it, it keeps you further away from the commandments. Some people like to hug the road as close as they can, as close to the edge, to see how close they can get to the edge without falling off. Well, one day you're going to get so close that you're going to slip and you're not going to be able to control the fall, and you're going to fall over and die. That's why there's guardrails on the sides of the roads. In case you get too close, it keeps you from falling over the edge. So fences around the Torah can be a good thing. They can also be a bad thing because certain fences around the Torah prohibit particular commands. For instance, when Yeshua says that you create customs and traditions that annul the Torah itself. If a young man says, I'm sorry, I know that I'm supposed to honor my parents, but I'm to honor God before I honor my parents. So all my wealth I'm giving to God, so therefore I can't help my parents out. And Yeshua says you're nullifying the commandments by your customs and traditions. And so this was a bad thing. If you have wealth and your responsibility is to help your aging parents, you're helping God by helping your aging parents. God doesn't need your wealth. Your parents need your wealth. So that's just another example. It says tithing is a safety fence to wealth. I think of the guy who ran the Caterpillar construction company, where he made these big yellow excavators and backhoes and bulldozers and big machinery. And he started giving the majority of his income to charity and to godly causes. And he discovered the more he gave out, the more that just came in unexpectedly. So in other words, you can't outgive God. If you give to God and you give with pure motives and a pure heart and you're a cheerful giver, God's going to give back to you. He's going to give back to you heaping over, piled, spilling over on itself, right? You can't outgive God. So it says tithing is a safety fence to wealth. Vows, a safety fence for abstinence. It's okay to say, well, I'm not going to do this in my mind, but if you bring it out into the open and into the public and say, well, I'm making a vow that I'm not going to do this, you're holding yourself accountable to everybody who heard that vow. So vows are a safety fence for abstinence, whatever that thing that you're abstaining from may be. A safety fence for wisdom is silence. As the old saying goes, even a fool is considered wise if he keeps his mouth shut. So Rabbi Akiva in Perkei Avot 3:17 had a lot of awesome good things to say. So guys, thanks so much for watching. And remember, when you're joking around, just keep it pure, keep it holy, keep it simple. Shalom, Shavua Tov. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press the like button as well as the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and the notification bell that'll let you know every time I make a new video. And don't forget to share this with a friend. Also, visit our website at abrahamsdescendants.com. Thanks. Shalom.